motivation. And what is really important in any film more than a minute is probably documenting the character. And so when we're saying the character, and of course the character is a word we borrowed from like creative writing, a novel or something, or a fiction film. But then you could also call like a real person a character, and then once you have that in your film. So today we're gonna just give some basics about storytelling technique, and then how do you do your character. Before shooting, and you need to ask yourself, and why am I interested in a particular subject? And what does shooting the subject mean to me? And what do I intend to achieve through my work? And if the subject is yourself, and I also hope that through the filming and you want to review something, or if you want to find yourself, like looking for yourself in a sense, and you kind of, if you have a motivation of doing this will make your film much better in the sense that you have a direction of the film where it is going. And then when you're coming to the point of editing, you're organizing your material and you are very clear what you're doing. So during the shooting, we need to constantly reflect upon our relationship as the filmmaker. We're the person who has the camera and our subject. And if our subject is ourselves, and then the most important thing is that you have to set a distance between you and yourself, and how do you look at yourself from a distance. This would be the same when you come to the writing of an autobiography, or if you're writing a story based on yourself. If you're shooting some other people, and then the most important relationship, the most important thing in your shooting is your relationship with your subject. What kind of relationship you have with your subject was very much would determine how your film look like in the end. So is somebody willing to share the experience with you, and to what level they want to share the experience with you? And how does your subject understand the purpose of your shooting, especially when you're making a student work? And then so if you want to film somebody, and then you try to convince them, and you say, I am actually filming this in order to submit my homework, would they be convinced? And then if they like you a lot, and then they might just do it. Or if they're your friend, and then you do the same for them. But then what about like you film someone who has like no relation, and so does your work mean anything? So what you have to do was really in order to present your subject better, you need to ask yourself and say, what is the motivation or the goal in the life of my subject? What is this person is about? What does he want to achieve? And then what kind of repeated action that this person does. So if this person is a worker, and then maybe he spent 7 hours of his day just doing the repairing something, or a construction worker, or this person is a professor and is probably spending lots of time in front of the computer, and then I often joke about myself and then say my kind of sports was always typing, and so that's like the major action of that subject. Or if somebody is good at talking, and then talking is a profession, somebody working as a video, at a radio, and then that was the major action of this person. When you're following somebody, and the first thing that you need to know is this person's schedule or the routine. What kind of daily life he has? What time does this person get up? And then what does he do? And also, what is this person's relationship to time and space and other people? Who are the people who are close to? So basically, these are the first 4 points or the things that you need to find out before you start shooting. And then you need to understand your subject's action by going into like a little bit deeper level, what kind of personality this person have. And you need to also find out like the gestures, like when somebody's nervous and then they're biting their nails, for example, and then that would show something psychological about this person, or what kind of habits they have. Like somebody was super clean, was washing their hands all the time, and then that shows a kind of psychology of this person. So these are the things that you need to pick up. And the speech genre refers to the way the person talk, what kind of vocabulary this person is using. If the person is like saying the F word all the time, or if the person is saying, oh my God, like 100 times a day. And all these things coming into the person's speech all show something about this person, what kind of person he or she is. And also the persuading technique or the logic of reasoning. So this is also would be very interesting if somebody wants to tell their story, or somebody wants to persuade you to do something, or the way they think. So this is something also very important. And the character in the story, and these are like in narratology, we would divide the character, like everybody was a character. The most important character, we call them a protagonist. And then there's a character I, who is in the film and who sort of narrates the film. Then there's the hero, and hero is a kind of a protagonist and anti-hero. The anti-hero was the person, usually an evil person, a bad guy. And antagonist was the major opponent of a protagonist. So if you have two of them, which happens in most of this like Tom Cruise movies, like Mission Impossible, or or the Transformer story, and then there was always the evil side and the good side of the people. So these are the protagonist and antagonist, and very often they're the hero and anti-hero. And so these are the things that, like I drew this graphic to help you to understand. This is like the superficial level of knowing somebody, and then this is at the subconscious level of knowing somebody. So the thing that's troubling young people, and when especially say, oh, I'm in love with the wrong person, or I made the wrong friend, it's because younger people are even better at pretending something they're not, and in order to get the attention, get a friendship quick. But then those were the things that you wouldn't be able to tell. Some people are like very direct and very, but then when you grow up, and then when you're 30 something, and then you could basically know about people around you and what kind of person they are, you would be able to tell like whether you're gonna like this person or not, and like them for how long. And but then these are the things that help you to understand. And of course, you're like a younger person who understand people very early in life if they have a tough situation when they're growing up. And so that's another thing. So here was the person with a strong motivation. Let's see if you are filming a person, and then you have several subjects that you're thinking about, and one of the person is easiest to film was this kind of person with a strong motivation about getting something. So you could also when you're making a documentary, let's say if you find out this person, this young man whose name is Alexander, and then so he wants to get this girl, like he wants to get this girl next week or something because he has a bet. with his friend and saying, I'm gonna get that girl like in 1 week time. And so he has to, when you have something like that, with like fictional or in reality, you have a time frame to do that. And documentary is about a process. You need to show a process. If you don't have a process, when people are watching the documentary, they feel that your plot is not moving forward. And then they were like, so? Like, what's going on? And then what about it? So there are lots of time you watch a documentary, you enjoyed it, but you feel that the story is not moving forward because there was not a clear process in it. Okay, so lots of the TV documentaries, 15 minutes, showing National Geographic or the History Channel, they talk about person. If the following a person's biography is easier because then you can see how this person began as a child and then the life progress. But lots of other documentaries about the discussion of an issue, very often the things just, they have interesting things to say, but it's just the story is not moving forward. So this is the kind of thing that you need to take care. For example, if you, the two most recent Oscar winner, one is called Searching for Sugar Man. And so, and of course, Sugar Man has the connotation of the person who's selling drugs. And but then they were also calling the Sugar Man, they were actually looking for a singer. And then that film, actually, when the director comes in, the process of searching already ended. So he kind of used the fictional film's way of structuring the whole thing, having suspense, and then so in the middle of the film, the person you thought was dead actually come alive, and then I was like, wow, this is some structuring of the film. It's very strong. But then when you have something like 20 Feet from Stardom, which is this year's Oscar-winning film, you watched it, and then you were like, okay, so this is about 5 women who were back singers of this really wonderful band, like the Beatles and then the Rolling Stone and Elton John and then or Sting, and with all these like wonderful singers. But they don't have anything progress. They were interviewed. There were footage of them when they were young. But the footage was organized in a way that there's a conversation. So you still have to find a clue how to organize all these material together. You have 5 women. These 5 women has nothing to do with each other except that they were all black. They were all gospel singers when they were young, and then they are all back singers. That's it. And some has a success story, some don't. How you're going to organize this together, and how can you give the audience, even though there's no process there, how can you give the audience a sense of the whole thing is progressing? And so this is the kind of question you ask, and then when you are an editor. This is why like a documentary film editing is much more difficult than fictional film editing. If you can edit a documentary, no problem. You can edit like a fictional film, but not vice versa. Because fictional film, you have the script, you have a plot already, and then that was already there. And then you, as an editor, your job was different. You selected the best shot, and then you tune the whole thing into the kind of precise Hollywood mechanic plot, and then you're okay, you're fine. But then with the documentary editing, it's much more subtle than this. So you could still do, like for example, in 20 Feet from Stardom, I observed that there's once in a while you see the concert scenes from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But then these concert scenes, the way they arrange them was that the concert just gets larger and larger. So at the 75% about that position of the film, and then you have the Beatles concert, which is a massive with like a lots of audience. So you could say that in terms of content, the thing didn't move forward. But in terms of visual, these concerts just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that gave the audience subconsciously give you an expectation that you wouldn't know. Like after you watch the film for about 10 minutes, and then you say, okay, so we're gonna have a bit of interview, we're gonna hear this person sing, and then we're gonna see her when she was 20-something, when she was 18-year-old. Even though like most interviewed women are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, okay? And then there's a concert, like a big concert scene. So you kind of tune your audience to this rhythm, and then they start to expect that. And after a while, and then they start to pick up, and then so, okay, I can expect better and better, like a concert, bigger and bigger concerts. And also the, I guess for that film, the biggest challenge was the sound, actually. And how did the sound editing was just impeccable. And then I was like, you know, this is the best documentary that I watched in terms of sound. It's even better than like a professional recording of a concert because you have a variety of sound coming in. You have people talking, you have singing, different styles, and then they all come in. So here, when you're facing a real character, and then when you try to analyze this person's motivation, there are usually, this is true also to fictional film, some people are proactive. I want to do this. I really want to make this happen. And I put lots of efforts in making this happen. Some people are reactive and say, oh, I'm chased by all these deadlines. And then, you know, like all the three women are falling in love with me at the same time. And then, you know, each of them were very proactive. And then I'm this passive boy, and what I'm going to do. And so he kind of like react to. So people are doing, and so in the action movie, you also have these two types. And then, you know, like you are given 007, were given the task of catching the bad guy. But then very often, like Mission Impossible was like, you know, Tom Cruise, you should be careful because somebody wants to kill you. And so this person is reactive, like he has to hide. Especially when you have the protagonist who's a very innocent young man who doesn't even know what happened and people already want him to be dead. There's this kind of action movie and you have that. In real life, people are proactive and reactive also. So there are the external motivations of what you want to do. And then there's also the internal motivation, meaning that why do you want to do it? Why do you need to do it? Okay, so you have like the external action of looking for your parents, for example. But then you also have the internal motivation of something, like maybe you have a piece of memory that drives you to do that, or maybe you know, it's the deep sense of security that you want the deep sense of security, and then that's why you want that, you want to find out, or self-protection in a sense that you just want to protect yourself, and then you react to people, you're very careful, and so all these things, once you understand the character, you would understand this person's action. Why does he have this kind of gesture all the time? And the other thing about the internal thing was the hesitation, and it says a lot about people. Lots of young people, and then they're wandering around. They don't know what they want from life yet. They don't even know what kind of job they will get, what kind of women they will get, and then what kind of, would they be able to get a family by the time of, by the age of 30, which is like a deadline for many young people. And then the next deadline is 34. And then when the woman is still not married by 39, and she might panic. I don't know, and maybe 45 is your deadline. So all these things were, and lots of the time, and we're facing the inability to make a decision. What should we do? And so there was lots of hesitation about it. This is a common thing. What is the common thing is really important, because if you have a film, have a wonderful person who's very uncommon, and it could be wonderful, but then people wants to see something, some weakness of everybody on the screen, so that they can relate to this person. They can feel sympathetic to this person. They can feel that I'm connected to this person. I can identify with this person. Okay, so this is something that, when people are talking to you, they hesitate and they pause in between their sentence. They couldn't come up with words. They have difficulty to express themselves. These things are also important. So do not stop your camera when you're talking to somebody and then this person just pause. It could be a very meaningful pause, and depends on how you're going to organize thing together. And also in storytelling, there was in terms of plotting, you have to understand this. This is also true for documentary, that when you have, I'm not calling it like, if your documentary have, no matter it has a story or not, like your 1 minute video that you made, it probably doesn't have story because you only have 1 minute, right? But then whatever you do, there is the beginning and the end. You have to take care of these two pieces. And the narrative tension, or what we call it, the narrative drive. Narrative drive is the force that pushing the narrative from the beginning to the end. And then there's suspense, which is a delaying force to make your narrative not to go too fast from the beginning to the end. And so when one force goes this way, the other force goes away, then there's tension. And so this is the major thing about how to nail your audience at their seat when you're doing something. So it doesn't matter if you're making a drama or you're making a documentary. If you can achieve something called narrative tension, you would succeed in keeping your audience at the seat. If you fail to do that, like, do you have the experience that you're watching a movie and then you kind of like in the middle of the movie and then you said, okay, now I can go to the toilet. If you have that, and then that bit of the narrative kind of loosen up a little bit, and then you feel that. But if you want, like, you kind of like, I cannot go at this moment, I cannot go at this moment, and then that bit of the movie actually keep you there, and it was like it's doing very well in keeping your attention. Okay, and so that's the bit with a very good narrative tension in there. Understand? Yeah. So this is the thing, of course, we're talking about theory, and in practice, how you're doing it. And one of the most commonly used technique is to cut back and forth between two timelines, between two characters. Back and forth, and then you do that. And some of you already did that in your 1 minute video, and which, like, later on in the second half of the class, I'm going to show some example from your 1 minute video. The other thing is to understand character relationship. Character relationship is sometimes more important than the character themselves. I have a PhD student, my first PhD student, her name's April. And when she first met me, she didn't like me very much. And then she met my husband. And then she really liked my husband. And then she thought, if I could be married to that husband, and then she had a better impression of me. And then she told me that. She says, like your husband really adding some points to you as a person. So I was using this example of the character relation. What kind of friend you make, what kind of people you marry, what kind of parents that you have, and then what kind of people that you try not to be. And all these says a lot of things about you. So when we're trying to understand a character, and if we're just looking at this person, we're not getting that much. We have to look at the person around them, what kind of friends they have. So this is an interesting thing, and because sometimes we feel we're a very bad person. Do you have the experience that you feel yourself is easier to lose temper with some people, but with some other people you never lose your temper? Do you have that experience? Yes, raise your hand. Okay, good. Or like, do we have any student in this classroom who never lost a temper? Raise your hand. Do we have students here who always lose your temper with your family, but not with your friends? Raise your hand. Okay. Very hesitating. So that hesitation says a lot about you. Okay. So here was it actually reveals a lot, and then we're actually we can divide people into those kind of people who would only lose temper with your family, or those people who never lose temper with your family. And me and my husband were the kind of people who never lose temper with our family, but we always lose our temper outside home. But my sister was the opposite, and then she would accuse my mom and dad for this and that, but then she was such a nice person when she just and her daughter was the same. So this also says a lot about what kind of person that you are. We're not saying this person is good or bad, but then it's just they're different. Okay, so here when you are making a film, and the number of the characters in your film says a lot about. It actually, you could say that the structure of your documentary or fiction film depends on how many characters you involve. And if it is centered around one character, and then so what you do was that you could just focus on this one character and see how she does things, what was her motivation or whatever. This is a very direct way of doing this. And this kind of film is a little bit difficult to make, because if we're just looking at one person, and there's a big chance that lots of audience members did not like this person, and then they will not like your film. They would not find it interesting, I mean. But if you have lots of people relating to this one person, and then you have different aspects of showing this person, even though all these people were centered, in the center there was this one person, but then there's all the other person, that you could do a much more interesting story. When you have two characters at the center of so they could be lovers, they could be a girl who has two sides. There are so many stories with based on the double, what's it called? The double story of Veronica. And there are many stories with a one woman, or a woman has the same, who looks the same, or two women who looks exactly the same, this kind of film. Or a black swan and a white swan. One person who's having this evil side, and so it could be enacted by two people or just one person. Or you could have the lover story, Romeo and Juliet. Or you could have the anime, you and the anime. And so when you have like two stories, and then you could have, say this Japanese anime just had, both girls are called Nana. They're very different. This girl was living a very conventional life, and then this girl was living a life that's in every sense is non-conventional. So she is kind of an ideal for this girl here. And then when they meet, they will be attracted to each other because they're very different. This is also a thing about being young. When we're young and we're easily attracted to the people who are very different from us. And when we get older, you kind of start to know that marriage would work better with the people who have similar values. Otherwise, you kind of argue on every little thing, and then that becomes your daily life, and then you cannot achieve happiness. So that's the thing. And also, I remember when we were in our early 20s, I have two girlfriends, and then there's me, and then all the three of us were at one point attracted to a man who's about 17, 18, 20 years older. And but that only happens when you're young. And once we're over like 35, and then we find all these older men are so boring, and then we're attracted to the younger guys who has less discrimination and less bias, and then more energy and whatever. So I guess this is like the complementary rule or the supplementary rule of life that you're doing. And the same with men. The men, when you get older and older, they were attracted to younger and younger women. So that's another thing. And right now in Asia, and then it's in the Chinese world at least, and then people say the big sister and younger brother kind of love was more popular than before, and because now you have like a stronger woman who's have a more successful career, and then they would not need an older, more successful man to fill in the sense of security, and in that sense they would be looking for something else, and they could even support a younger man to achieve his dream or whatever. So you see lots of kind of this relationship also happening. When you have three characters in the story, and this is so classic, not only Charlie's Angels, but then starting from the 1920s and 30s in the movies, and then you have a pattern. For example, the women's film that's targeted for a female audience would very often has three women, and these three women are after three things. These three things are usually love and family, a love relationship that leads to a steady family, and then the other one is a successful career and self-expression or self-realization. The third one is the seeking for pleasure. So when you have a movie with three women in it, and very often these three women, one after each of these three choices, I actually see less films with three men in them. But then there are more films about like two women with one man or two men with one woman, the so-called triangular relationship. So what is important, if you're writing a story or filming a story about the triangular relationship, just remember one thing. The most interesting triangular relationship was A and B and C. They're not that B and C only relate to A, but B and C also has some kind of deeper communication and has realize what each other mean to be. And then so you have these three characters, and then your narrative move along your triangle with each of them being one focus at the same time. And if you could do an equal share of that, then you would create a narrative tension naturally. But things is it's very difficult. I tried my student and asked them to write a story that tells the same story from 3 different characters' point of view. What happened with most of my students was that they usually can identify with one character based on themselves. They can write a much longer story from this perspective, but let's say if I have to write from Corinne's perspective, and it's much shorter, because my imagination of how she sees things was very limited. And I tried Rebecca, and then I was like, even more limited. So I write like 1,000 words for myself, 500 words of you, and 200 words for her. So that's what happened. So in order to know the other person better, which I think is a key in story writing, but when you're making documentary, it's different. When you're writing a fictional story and then you try to understand the other person, you could do the interview with them and then try to understand them. But then you know it. You know that you still didn't understand that person as well as you understand yourself. But when you're making a documentary, you have the privilege of sharing your life with another person for the time period of your shooting, and then also because of your camera is filming them, and you will be able to focus on this person and look at this person and listen to this person with the kind of attention that you usually don't have. Okay, especially when you're like looking at your mobile phones and then doing this like texting and then reading the news, flipping over your Facebook all the time, and then you're probably like very hardly. I don't see people looking at each other so much anymore, right? And so with your filming, and then you could see somebody better. And my experience was that if I edit a person in my phone, and I look at this image like frame by frame, and I can never forget this person. So it's like a very, very impressive kind of, and also the film work itself is so concentrated that it make me, like I usually, if my students show me a work, and then I would remember the work of my student probably better than the student himself or herself, because she or he give me like 5 minutes, and then I can like fully engage in this and really concentrating. So this is like how powerful documentary can be, because you can condense the life, even though you take a piece of real life here and there, and then you shoot over a period of time. Okay. So when you have 4 people in your story, and you need to subdivide these people into maybe 2 pairs, A, B, C, D, sometimes A and B and C and D versus each other, or A and C and B and D were friends, like in different times. And or you could do 2 triangles with 4 people there. And so once you understand how the double character work in a story, and how the triangle, like the triple character, work in a story, and you can deal with the quartet, like four characters in a story. And same, you could do 5 characters. So these are the film like Reservoir Dog by Quentin Tarantino. You have 5 characters, and Rashomon, you have 5 characters telling the story. So that's and then there's 6. 6 stories. You could do 3 pairs. You could do 2 triangles, and then you can mess around with the triangles a little bit. And then it's similar. And 7 is usually the ultimate number of characters in a movie of 2 hours or shorter. So you have 7 Samurai, you have Inception. These are the movies with 7 characters. Why? Because if you get more than 7 characters, then each person get less than 10 minutes. It's very hard to make an impression. And of course, in your film, you're not making like 7 little films about like 7-10 minutes of each character. But in order to make the character impressive, you need to give the character at least 5 or 6 minutes just focusing on that character. And then the rest of it, you could focusing on a character relationship, how this person reacted to the two other person, and then through this overlapping, and eventually, if you watch a story of 7 characters and you remember all the 7 characters very well, you are a brilliant storyteller. You're like super, super strong storytellers. It's kind of hard to do that. One other thing was that if you have multiple characters, if you have lots of characters, and how can you do a story? One of the technique is to group them. Like, I always show the 2 of you together and the 3 of them together because they always hang out together. So they could appear in a story as a group of people. And then they would also make an impression that way. Okay. So sometimes when you're making a film about, like next week, Tammy Chang suggested that we show her film called July, and she also has a film called Middle School. And these both films were, Middle School was mostly focusing on one girls' school and one boys' school in Hong Kong. And they were both kind of elite school, the good schools. And then so she kind of cut back and forth and to create a contrast between the boys' school and the girls' school. And then that's how she keep the tension of the film. And then you have July, which is on the parade of July 1st in 2003, when 500,000 of Hong Kong people went into the street because the Chinese government sort of adding one article to the basic law. And this one article was basically saying we can revise all the articles if we want. Okay, so it concerns with Hong Kong's democracy. So what's going on right now was not something just happened out of random. But ever since 10 years ago, there was like a tension here and there, and all these tension just sort of accumulated together, and then which lead to the recent outburst of the story. And I'm going to also show you, like in the second half of class, a space video and a time video about what's going on in the street in Central. Okay, so let's see. Did we start from 4 o'clock? Okay. So I'm going to show you first a 15-minute video